Hey listeners, it's Mandy from the Monomyth Diaries. We're pushing the pause button for May, June, and July. Taking a little time to breathe, reflect, and prepare for what's ahead in Season 3. While we're away, we'll be replaying some listener favorites, host favorites, and some of our most downloaded episodes. Conversations filled with honesty, heart, and transformation. Whether you're hearing them for the first time or revisiting the ones that stayed with you, we hope they continue to meet you right where you are. Be sure to mark your calendars. We'll return the first Tuesday in August with new voices, powerful stories, and meaningful conversations. We're also excited to announce that next season we'll be doing some giveaways, so be on the lookout for those announcements. In the meantime, we'd truly love to hear from you. Visit monomythdiaries.com and tell us your Season 2 favorites, the guests who resonated, the tools and strategies you've tried, and the moments that stuck with you. Your feedback helps us shape where we go next. Thank you for listening, for sharing, and being part of this incredible journey. We can't wait to step into Season 3 together. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Monomyth Diaries, a podcast where ordinary people get to share their hero's journey. I'm Mandy.
And I'm Rachel, and we'll be your host. We'll discover powerful insights, critical moments of growth, and much more.
Thanks for joining us. We all have a monomyth to share, and someone out there needs to hear it. Welcome to the Monomyth Diaries, where it's a take what you like and leave the rest podcast. Today's featured hero is Tyler. Her early years were marked by pain and struggle, from an abusive home to addiction to incarceration and to moments where hope felt impossible. Yet even in the darkest times, a small seed of faith remained. In today's conversation, Tyler takes us through her journey of survival, the threshold moment that changed everything, and the choice that opened the door to healing, redemption, and a new life filled with purpose. Let's welcome Tyler to the show. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're going to start out with some Monomyth story starters. It's just a series of quick questions. Get you talking, let the audience get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
So first question, sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Okay. Favorite sweet?
Anything chocolate and peanut butter.
Ooh, me too. Yes, peanut butter's good. If you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
It's funny that you asked that question because I had that same question for a group of campers yesterday, and I didn't think to myself, what would my word be?
Oh, but you asked all the campers.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. The word perseverance.
I would agree. Good word for you. If you were a movie character, who would you be?
What's the name of that movie? The Blue People. Avatar. Yes, thank you, Lord.
Okay.
Avatar. I would totally want to be an avatar.
What's your favorite indulgence?
A good glass of wine.
Red or white?
Red.
Red. Okay. Yeah, me too. Are you married?
I am. Newly married.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
What's his name?
Harley.
When did you get married?
We got married in December, but we had our ceremony in April.
Oh, very newly married.
Yes.
That's very exciting.
Yes.
We're going to get to talk about him later.
Okay, good.
If you could instantly learn any language, which would it be?
Spanish.
Why Spanish?
I have been to Honduras now 5 times. I just got back last week from Honduras, and I kind of consider them like an extended family. But I have to use either a translator or Google Translation to have conversation with them, and I just really want to be able to connect with them. It is a goal of mine to learn Spanish. I'm on a personal journey to learn it.
I studied Spanish for 6 years in high school,
Mm.
and I can only do the basics. Because I've never been forced to use it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think until you're forced to use it, like you going to Honduras,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually immerse yourself in it.
Mm-hmm.
I did learn Portuguese because I lived there. And I was forced to have to learn it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Can you still speak it?
Mildly. I could probably get by, but I have forgotten much of it. All right. Do you have a hidden talent?
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
That's a really hard one. I got that question and I was on the spot, so I said sewing on buttons.
I mean, I can't even do that.
I bet you could if you had to. But most people don't have to anymore, right?
That's true. But a seamstress makes a lot of money, and I'm assuming they make a lot of money because I just had to have one of my bridesmaids' dresses taken up, and I was like, wow, by how much it cost. So I'm like, I'm in the wrong business.
Did you have to have your dress altered?
No, mine was like a perfect fit, but the girls all had to have theirs altered. So.
Yeah, you're lucky. I remember the cost of mine. It was insane.
Yeah,
it's like $350.
Yeah.
Crazy.
To have it taken up. Like you're taking things out and anyway, yes.
Yes, I take things to the tailor all the time, and every time I come out of there, I spend too much money. Dogs or cats?
Both. I have a poodle.
Really?
Hmm.
A full-size poodle?
She's a full-size poodle. We just adopted her a couple of months ago, and she's 6 years old. So I saw her online, and I told my husband, I said, I'm going to go see this dog, and I'm not going to get her today. I just want to go check her out. And so I go into the shelter and I tell the ladies I'm here to see Raina. And they're all like, oh, we love Raina. And this lady says, okay, go to the back and I'll bring her out to you. So she goes and gets Raina and she brings her out to me and she starts telling me that Raina has a broken leg. Raina has a broken leg, but don't worry, she's seen a vet, yada, yada, yada. She gives me the whole spiel. And all I heard was, she has a broken leg? I have a broken leg. That's my dog. It was a match made in heaven for sure. But at the hiding place, we have a couple of cats. And so they're just so therapeutic for the girls. And so I love them both.
What color poodle?
She's black with white.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Uh-huh.
Where are you from? And where do you live now?
I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I live here in Houston, Texas.
That's all 10.
Awesome.
That was easy, right?
That was fun.
All right, you feeling comfortable?
Yeah,
You ready to do this?
I think so.
Okay, well, once again, thank you for coming on the show and being willing to share your monomyth. We
Mm.
always appreciate the testimony of others.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to rewind all the way back to the beginning and talk about your early years, childhood, teenage years,
Mm-hmm.
all the things leading up to your transformation.
Yeah. So just dive right in.
Dive right in. Let's talk about what life was like for you as a little girl.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember a whole lot when I was a little girl. I will say that when my mom and my father were together, my dad was always gone. He was a great businessman, but he wasn't around very much because he was working all the time. And so it was just kind of me and my mom. Then they ended up getting a divorce. And that was really difficult for me because even though my dad wasn't around, I was still kind of like a daddy's girl when he was home. My mom and I, it was just difficult. All that transition was just very difficult. And then my mom met and married my stepdad sometime later, and he was an abusive and crooked police officer. So I would see this man wear this badge that said to protect and serve, and he would come home and start drinking and become very abusive.
Mm.
And so I had a very warped idea of what fatherhood was, of what authority was. And I remember that they would say, I love you, but then my stepfather more so be abusive. And then, of course, my mom was in a lot of fear, and so she operated out of that fear. And so a lot of anger and criticism and just, all these things that just kind of was the foundation of our home. There was no foundation of God in our home. And so as a little girl, I just didn't understand that. Mm-hmm. Didn't understand, just kind of life as it was.
How old were you when your parents divorced?
I was 8.
You were 8. And then when your mom remarried?
I think I was probably 10 or 11.
You were quite young.
Uh-huh.
Your biological dad, was he still in the picture?
Mm-mm. He wasn't in the picture. He pretty much, just kind of, when my mom married my stepdad, just kind of was like, she has another father figure in her life now. She doesn't need me kind of attitude, I guess. So that was really hard, because my birth father didn't obviously know what was happening with this new father, but yet he didn't want to have anything to do. It was just really confusing. I just didn't really understand any of it, to be honest with you.
I bet.
Yeah. So
tell us about high school.
It was really, really rough. There's a saying, and it's negative attention is better than no attention at all. And, when I was at home, like I said, it was very dysfunctional. It was abusive. It was dark. It was chaotic. It was filled with anger and all the things. And so when I would go to school, I was looking for some type of acceptance and some type of belonging from classmates or from people that I called my friends. I realize now, obviously I didn't know this then, but friendships were very transactional. And it was always kind of, what can you do for me? What can I do for you kind of thing. I ended up just getting with the wrong crowd of people, but they accepted me, based off of really what I could do for them. And so when I was in high school, I started using drugs, and that was just kind of the beginning of that path.
Your relationship with your mom in high school, what was that like? I know you said as a little girl you were a daddy's girl.
Mm-hmm.
What was your relationship with your mom like?
It was distant. When I started acting out in school, I was skipping school all the time. I didn't want to be at school, and I would just, again, find, friends or whoever to be with, and we would leave school and we'd go do whatever. And so I got in a lot of trouble. My mom was not very happy about that, and so it caused a lot of friction between me and my mom. So it was not very good.
Through all of this, did you have anybody to mentor you, anybody to turn to, or were you
No.
feeling super alone?
Yeah, super alone. Yeah.
No good role models.
Yeah. Like I said, there was no foundation of God in my home, and I didn't really have any friends that had good parenting. I was just attracting, I think, what I was
Used to, what you
yeah,
knew.
what I was used to, what I knew. That's right. Yeah.
It's comfortable.
Yes. What was
Chaos.
comfortable. Mm-hmm.
Dysfunction. Took it
Mm-hmm.
right into your other relationships.
That's right.
I know you said in high school you weren't a good student, but at some point you decide that you want to go to college. How did that happen?
I don't know that that was necessarily my decision to go to college. I think that was more of a pressure from my mom that I needed to do something with my life. So I did. I barely graduated high school. Something that definitely stands out with that is like standing in my principal's office at the time because I had skipped so many days of school. And I'd skipped like over the allotted amount, and I literally had to beg my principal to let me graduate. If I don't graduate, you don't understand. My stepdad's gonna kill me. It's gonna be a war zone in my house if I don't graduate. And I think the Lord just had grace for me in that moment, even though I didn't even know who he was, because the principal ended up letting me graduate. And so, yeah, I do think that there was a pressure to go to college, but that only lasted for a few weeks because I just wanted to party and get high and numb the pain that I was in. And going to school and getting an education was not what I wanted. It was more of what I think my mom wanted.
So you did end up going to college for a few weeks.
For a few weeks, and I dropped out, which then made my mom even more angry because she had to pay for my books and all the things, and so I put my mama through a lot.
Had your mom gone to college? Is that why she was insistent?
I don't think she did.
She just wanted better for you. That's nice.
Yeah.
So tell us then, you've barely made it through high school, you try college for a couple weeks. What happens next? You continue down a path of using and abusing drugs.
I just continue down this path. I kind of began to paint this picture of myself of being a party girl. I was in Louisiana at the time, and so I ended up going to New Orleans. New Orleans was about a 45-minute drive from where I lived in Slidell. And I just started shacking up in New Orleans and started going to these clubs in New Orleans and living the party life, and was dancing in an entertainment club, and every dollar that I made doing that I would turn around and spend on drugs and going to these clubs and partying and getting high and trying to make friends by buying drugs for people or doing things for people just so people would want to be with me or to like me or whatever. And so that went on until I got arrested for the first time. And so I got arrested and went to jail, and I called my mom, and my mom bailed me out. So I'm like, okay, cool. Mama bailed me out, and I'm just going to keep doing what I was doing.
Do you mind me asking, what were you arrested for?
Drugs.
Okay. You were arrested for possessing drugs?
Possession.
It's a world that's not completely foreign to me because
Yeah,
I never got
the language.
I never got caught.
Right.
I mean, but as you said, by the grace of God, I look back at some of the things I was doing, and man, I can't believe I didn't get in trouble. I'm just grateful every day I didn't get in trouble.
Yeah. So mama bailed me out, and I just went right back to what I was doing. So at this point now, I would say this was probably around 2008, and there was a big crash in the market. And so the entertainment clubs, I was not making the money that I was making before. And then it got to the point where what little bit of money I was making, I just wanted to spend on drugs. I was able before to buy drugs and to get myself a hotel room. Well, now it's either drugs or a hotel room, but I can't do both, so I chose the drugs, which then put me on the streets of New Orleans.
Living on the streets, or were you living in a car?
Well, I had a vehicle, and I had a vehicle that I wasn't paying my payments on, so I was driving it illegally, but it was parked in a parking lot. And so I would either sleep in that car or I would sleep in the park. And then I would just go into the club. Maybe now, instead of going every day or every other day, I was going maybe once a week. But when I would go in, because I was living on the streets, essentially, I wasn't taking a shower. I wasn't able to take care of myself physically. And so I would go into the club and I would just have a wash rag and just wash my body off. And I remember these girls just laughing at me and mocking me and all the things, but I would just do what I had to do to make a little bit of money that day so I could go back out and buy more drugs. And so that cycle happened for a while, and then I got arrested a second time. Pretty sure it was possession again. Mama bailed me out a second time and went right back to doing what I was doing and right back to the streets. And so I got arrested a third time. She bails me out again a third time. Well, at this point now, I'm like, okay, I'm living on the streets. I mean, I'm homeless. I mean, I can sleep in my car, but it's either the car or outside in the park somewhere. I don't have a job. I don't have any money. So if I'm going to be homeless, if I'm going to be living on the streets, then I want to go to Florida because at least I can do this and be on the water because I love the water. I mean, it made sense to me in
Right.
my head.
I was going to say, you're in your early 20s at this point, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Makes sense to a 20-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. So I go into a club this day and I make whatever little bit of money that I could make. And I was able to get my car out of the parking lot and I started driving to Florida. And I had no idea what part of Florida I was going to. I just knew that I wanted to get to Florida. Well, I hadn't made that much money that day in the club, so I think I had like $2 left to my name, and I was running out of gas. And so I get off on the San Marco exit, and this was before Google Near Me. And so I went into the extended stay hotel and I used their phone book and I found the nearest strip club. And I went into that strip club that day, made some money, and was able to get a hotel room that night. And I ended up meeting with some crack cocaine dealers. And they said, hey, if you'll drive us around to all of our spots and do what we need to do, we'll keep you high on crack. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And so we did that, and I drove them around for about, I don't know, 2.5 weeks. And then we got pulled over, and the cop made us get out of the car, searched the car, found the dope, found the paraphernalia, took us all to jail. So I'm thinking, no big deal, my mom is going to bail me out. And I called my mom that fourth time from jail, and she said, Tyler, if you're going to live your life like this, I can't have anything to do with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I bet that was hard to hear.
Yeah, I didn't understand that tough love. I remember saying some not very kind things to her, and I hung up the phone and I sat my time in, and I was there at that point. It was several weeks that I sat in jail that time. And when I got out, I had absolutely nothing but the clothes on my back. My car had been impounded. I'm in a foreign state and city. I have no idea where my car had been impounded to. Even if I did, I didn't have any money to get it out. What little bit that I owned was in my car. So my identification, the few items of clothing that I had, and I had none of that. And so I literally just started walking the streets.
She literally got turned out with nothing.
Yes. I mean, literally, they just let me walk out of Jacksonville jailhouse, and that was it. And I remember at one point when I was locked up in one of the jail stints prior to, I remember overhearing some girls talk about prostitution, and I just thought, okay, well, this is it. This is what my life has come to. I'm going to be a prostitute on the streets.
Goodness.
So I started walking and found my first, they call it on the streets, they call it a trick. And so I found my first trick, made some money, and of course the first thing that I did was, where's the drugs, where's the crack? And when you're on the streets, you can find it one way or the other. And so I did, found the crack dealer in that area, and then that cycle began with prostitution and just prostitution and crack basically was the cycle. I was living on the streets, living in the park, and this guy approached me one day. His nickname on the streets was WAP, and he was later killed on the streets for spreading HIV. But WAP had approached me and he said, what's going on? And I'm just like, I'm homeless, I'm on the streets, where's the crack, whatever. And he ended up taking me to this guy's house. There was two men that lived in this house, and they were functioning addicts. One was a crackhead, the other one was an alcoholic, but somehow they still kept jobs. And I remember walking into their house, Mandy, and they had dishes piled up in the sink that looked like these dishes had just been piling up for maybe like 6 months. It was disgusting. There was roaches all over the place. The environment was just trash. But they offered their couch, and they said, you can sleep on the couch, but you've got to clean this house. You've got to clean the dishes. You've got to do the things. And so it was so bad that I literally filled the bathtub up in the bathroom with water, and I was taking the dishes from the kitchen into the bathtub to try to wash them that way because that's how many dishes were piled up. Like I couldn't even use the sink. And so I did that for a while. Of course, it didn't help that there was a functioning crackhead that lived in the house. And so he was also keeping me high and all these things. But I wouldn't stay there. I would go out on the streets and go do my own thing, continue to do tricks so I could make money, so I could buy my own dope, all these things. And so that was a very repetitive cycle. And then just going to jail many more times after that.
Had you had any communication with your mom at this point?
No. So when my mom said that she couldn't have anything to do with me, I never called her again. I was arrested a total of 16 times. So from arrest number 5 to arrest 16, I had no communication with her. And that was years of all this that was going on that we had no communication. And I will say, when I was on the streets, I was glad when I got locked up. There came a point where I was like relieved to go to jail because at least I would have a bed or a cot to sleep on, a shower, and food. In one point of this journey, I remember walking on the interstate and hitching rides with 18-wheelers, like things that you only see in the movies was things that I was doing, putting myself in some very dangerous situations and also having several near-death experiences when I was on the streets. I had several guns held to my head and was also almost choked to death at one point. So I'm here for a reason.
That's for sure.
Because I should have been dead, all the times that I was on the streets, these near-death experiences, and then also the addiction had gotten so bad at one point. I was introduced to shooting up, and so at one point I started shooting up cocaine and heroin, and it got to the point where I would use dirty needles. Like whatever it took to get the next high, I would do. And so when I say that God preserved my life, He preserved my life in more ways than one. I should have some type of deadly disease or something, and God saved my life from all that.
You're a miracle. It's crazy for me to think about you like that, only knowing you 6 months now and following you on Facebook, and you do such incredible things. It's hard to imagine what your life was like before. I mean, you're such a beautiful human.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. I was just telling some people in this trip to Honduras, they were asking some questions about my past, and I just said, it feels like a different life. You know what I mean? Like it feels like a different life, but yet there's still things that I can remember like it was yesterday. It's pretty wild.
We often talk with guests about inner thoughts and inner voice. What was your inner voice saying to you in all of the spiral out of control?
That I was just a body taking up space in the world. I was no one. I was not worth anything. And so much so that I attempted suicide at one point. When I was living at that house with those two men, I remember finding some generic pain pills in the alcoholics medicine cabinet and ended up overdosing on those, trying to kill myself. My inner thoughts were so wicked and demonic, honestly, and I just hated who I was. I hated who I was, and I just wanted out.
I think sometimes too people blame others. Were you blaming anybody else at this point?
I was blaming my mom for some things because, man, if she would not have, left me, if she would not have told me I wouldn't be here, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But then I also was so angry with God. Okay, so there was no foundation of God growing up in my home, as I said, but at 12 years old, a friend of mine did invite me to church. And I remember going to this church and just feeling loved, feeling something special that I didn't feel at home. And so sometimes on Sundays, my mom would drop me off and pick me back up, but she never stayed. It was always just me going on my own will. And I remember at one point that I did ask Jesus to be my savior as a 12-year-old kid, but I didn't understand the depth of the decision I had made. There was no one coming alongside to mentor me or disciple me, or do you understand the decision that you just made? So I would go to church for 2 hours, but then I would go back home to abuse and dysfunction, all the things, right? So eventually the darkness overpowered the light.
Oh, that's a nice way to say it.
Yeah.
The darkness overpowered the light. I have had that same experience. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's an excellent way to explain that. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's yours.
Anyway, go ahead.
So I remember one time when I was on the streets and I just remember crying out to God and I was so angry with him. Like, how could you let this happen to me? Like, if you loved me, if you're this great God like you say you are, then how could you let this happen to me? And so I was blaming, I think, probably him for a lot of things because I didn't understand.
I did the same thing as a little kid. I was so mad at God and I would cry out, "Where are you? Why is this happening to me?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just eventually turned my back on him. It's just easier not to believe anything
Yeah.
that's
That
going to
there is a
happen.
God in this and this is happening. Right. I get it.
You were introduced at a very young age that there's something out there. So there's a little seed planted.
Yes.
A little seed planted. I had a similar experience when I was younger. I went to Bible study and a little seed was planted. But I went home to similar things, where it was such a contradiction.
Yes, that's right.
Seeing two different worlds.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so let's fast forward then. So you've been incarcerated 16 times. So you're in the last time.
Yes.
Because I think this is where your big turning point comes, correct?
For sure.
Okay.
I was at a crossroads. And that crossroads was that last time I went to jail, the judge told me, if I see you one more time, you're going to be locked up for good.
Oh, so you had seen this judge multiple times?
I had seen him multiple times, yes. And so at this point, okay, so he's telling me one more time after this, and that's it. Like, my life is going to be in prison.
When you're incarcerated, it's jail.
Yes, I did all county stints, yes.
Okay, I'm not super familiar with it. So you have jail, you have county, you have prison.
County and prison.
Okay.
Yeah. So all mine were county stints, but he's saying, if I see you one more time, you're going to be locked up for good. So,
Meaning
okay.
you would go to prison.
Meaning I would go to prison.
Gotcha.
For a long while. And then the other side of that crossroad was when I was out the last time. That was when I had experienced the guns and being almost choked to death.
And your attempted suicide.
Yes. So this road is death and this road is prison. And there's really no in between. Like, that's my choice.
Yeah, they're not good choices.
Neither one of them are good choices. Even though I had attempted suicide, even though I was spiritually dead inside and I wanted out of this life, when I was faced with this crossroads, there was like this little, mustard seed of hope. Like a little itty bitty mustard seed of hope that thought there's got to be something different. There's got to be a different way other than prison or death, And so at this point, this is when I had called my mom. And years had passed since I had last spoken to her. And I told her just that, listen, if I don't do something different with my life, I'm either going to wind up in prison or I'm going to be dead on the streets. There's no in between. And so my mom, she had just suffered through Hurricane Katrina. Thank you. And I think God was really doing something on her heart too. And so she had come to visit me. And at one point she said, hey, when you get out of here, do you want to move? She was in Louisiana, had gone through Hurricane Katrina, but her family lives in Oklahoma. So she was going to move to Oklahoma after the hurricane. And so she asked when I was released from jail if I wanted to move with her to Oklahoma and to try to restore the relationships there with my family. And I'm going to be super honest with you. I didn't say yes because I was so excited about these restored relationships with the family. Woohoo! Like, I was still angry and very bitter towards my mom leaving me. I still didn't understand. I was still very, like, everything, it was just a lot of internal confusion and selfishness and self-centeredness and all the things. And so
you felt abandoned.
I felt abandoned 100%. Yeah.
Even though your mom was probably looking at it as, I can't save her.
Right. 100%. Yes, that's a good way to put it. So I said yes because I knew I didn't have another choice. If I didn't say yes to this, I was going to go back to the streets. And so I said yes, but God used that yes. And also, I would say that last time that I was in jail, I was given a Bible. And this Bible was very, very clear to understand. It would kind of relate it to like maybe the NLT or like a life recovery Bible. It was something very, very plain and simple. It was a very easy read. And so I remember just reading this Bible Bible when I was locked up. And now I can look back and I can see, wow, God was even beginning the transformation in my heart at that time. You know, Romans 12:2 says to not be conformed by the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. And he changes the way that we think by his word, by understanding his word. I can look back at that now, and by reading his word, I can see that even then God was transforming my mind, which was also transforming my heart.
Planting that mustard seed.
And yes, and deepening. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about what that looks like moving forward after your last incarceration and moving back in with your mom. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Tyler's journey through pain, addiction, and survival has been nothing short of harrowing, but it's also where the seeds of her transformation were planted. We hope you'll join us next week to discover how Tyler transformed her darkest moments into a powerful mission of hope and healing. Thanks for joining us on the Monomyth Diaries. If this episode resonates with you or someone you know, we'd love for you to share it and spread the inspiration. Don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube to stay connected. We'd appreciate if you could take a moment and rate and review the podcast. It helps us reach more people with stories of transformation and growth. You can visit us at monomythdiaries.com or text us directly from the show notes to reach out and keep the conversations going. Until next time, heroes, let's journey together through our monomyths.